Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so stand so that you can see. Alright, so this is what I told you yesterday. I'm going to show to you how all this stuff works. What is this?
It's your hub.
Okay, so you can see this is a auto hub, not like the other one which is a free. What is important with the free or the manual locker, if you don't have it in lock, it is not receiving power at the two front wheels. Remember, your prop shaft, the front prop shaft, can you see it? Can you see it going in there?
Yes.
It spins, it goes into the differential, transfer gates behind it, the differential, and it splits the power to the sides. There's a side shaft in here and there's a side shaft on the other one. Alright, so they are turning forward, and then inside here it's not connected unless that is locked. So physically there's no power going to this wheel hub. Alright, so what is this thing called?
Brake disc.
It's a disc. Alright, you can see it's got holes on the inside, so if there's any dirt and all that stuff, it can actually, you can wash it out. Alright, and what I do when I do a proper engine wash and a chassis wash, I'll obviously wait until it's nice and cool. Okay, you don't want to do this when it's hot. Then I'll physically go and rinse that, and you'll see all the stuff that will fall out of that. Alright, so it's preventative maintenance to keep your vehicle's chassis and drivetrain clean. This obviously is your caliper, so your actual discs, they break from both sides, or the brake pads rather. They break from both sides onto the disc. Alright, so here's your brake line. Do you understand that if you release the brake, which you've seen with the stall start, if you release it and you press it the second time, it'll still work. If you release it again and you press it the third time, that brake pad by your foot brake will just go solid, because this brake line is not receiving any hydraulic brake fluid anymore. Alright? Okay. It's a hydraulic system. So when you press it, the fluid actually goes down here into the actual mechanism. There's a little piston. It's a round, looks like a round metal bar really, and that piston is forced forward towards the outside with that hydraulic brake fluid. It fills up that cavity. Alright, so you understand now when we do the stall start, it's critical that you press it and you keep it pressed, because if you drop it, if the car jumps out of gear, it will release. Okay, so this is called a coil spring. Yes. What does it have in the back? Leaf springs. What does the Land Rover have in the back? Coil springs. What does the Land Rover have in the front? Coil springs. What is this whole beam from here to there called? A live axle, also known as a solid axle. Why is it called a live axle?
Because it doesn't act independently.
No, it's got moving parts on the inside. Right, so what is this then? This thing coming here, you see there's a little bar running that way. Steering rack end, or your steering rod. Okay, when you turn, there's a series of bars here that push and pull. Okay, so what is this then? You see this bar, if you go underneath, you'll see this bar runs in a sort of a funny W shape all the way from this side to that side. What is that called? Stabilizer bar. Alright, it controls the movement of the axle. Alright, what does this do? This, the control arm. Remember, that's a control arm. What does that do?
It prevents the chassis from...
Not the chassis.
The whole... The live axle.
The live axle from going like this. Alright, so the control arms physically, you can see they almost hold like a cup. They just bucket, form a bucket or whatever you want to call it. Alright, so they're gripping the live axle, so they're physically holding it in place, so it's not going to do this. Alright, the stabilizer bar controls this movement. It's not going to just go like that. Alright, and it's just adding additional control, if it makes sense. Why do you not have control arms in the back?
Because you don't turn the front, the back.
The back has got a solid axle as well. It also needs to be kept in place, but how is it kept in place with this car?
With the leaf springs?
Leaf springs, because they attach on the chassis, they go underneath or on top, depending on how it's set up, of the actual axle, and they attach on the front. You can physically see them being attached there, also on the back. Alright, so what is this then called?
Shock.
Okay, what does this shock do? Pushes down. That's why now you've seen it's a fully extended. All right, you can see even they spray painted this at some stage. That is the extension cycle. It's now extended. Right, so the wheel is being pushed down as far as it can go. The solid axle is physically done this. You won't realize it now just because of where we are. Okay, what is that then called? If you look underneath, you see there's a bar running straight across.
Isn't that also the steering rack?
This bar, you see it attaches on this side.
Okay.
The steering rack is this one, the front one. Okay, you've got two. Remember they push and pull. Okay, to turn. You want to turn left? All right. I'm going to push this side, this one. You push it, so you're turning left. You want to turn right? Okay, I'm going to pull. This is something different. This is a metal bar that runs, your chassis is here, and it attaches to the axle on that side. What does that do? What is it called?
Prevent side sway?
It prevents this. If this is my left wheel and it's my right wheel, it cannot go too far. What is it called?
Axle twist?
It's an axle twist, yeah, the actual motion, but it's called a...
What is it, Mark?
Panhard rod,
Panhard.
okay, or an anti-sway bar. Panhard rod for our American friend. Anti-sway, that's what you guys call it back home, alright? It's called an anti-sway bar as well. You'll find the big Jeeps, you know, those modified ones. They've got disconnecting sway bars. So it's a button that they physically disconnect. Then that coil and shock go way further. So you'll have that car doing incredible axle twisters. So what the Panhard rod does, it controls this movement of the axle. It can go, okay, stop. Otherwise, this coil and shock will physically just jump out. Actually the coil, but you get what I'm saying. All right.
The coils surrounding the shock, that's
Then it's a
McPherson
strut. That's a McPherson strut. This is not a McPherson strut because this is not an independent suspension. Okay, if you take my